Let's begin with a word of prayer. Gracious God in heaven, we thank you, we praise you, we honor you, we glorify your name for this wonderful Sabbath beginning. As we get into the Sabbath school, oh Father, and I believe that your presence will go with us. Give us that experience of your joy, peace, and happiness as we listen to your word. In Jesus' name I pray. After Sabbath once again, even though we are few in number, I believe the presence of the Lord is there with us. And the mission report is entitled as Missionary Changed My F. It has a little a different meaning, and let's go to it as we've been able to listen to this one. And it has been written by Eugene France, and he is an associate secretary to the Zimbabwe Union Conference based on Lavayo. I was an average student in my theology classes at Salosi College, a pre-independent Zimbabwe. My hardest subject was Greek, and the highest grade I ever got was a C. When I wrote my final Greek exam, I knew that I failed. Doctor, I failed again. I said as I handed it to the professors, Dr. Leo Raunio, he smiled and said, "It's okay." For the next week, I mourned the fact that I couldn't graduate. I had planned to get married a month later. And the notion of spending another 6 months redoing Greek was unthinkable. Dr. Raunio, a retirement age missionary born in Finland, called me to his office, and I understood for the first time the meaning of God's grace. "I've been watching you for 4 years on this campus," Dr. Raunio said. "I have seen you change from a radical fellow to a hardworking young man who loves the Lord. I noticed that even the music on your tape recorder changed from rock and roll to the music to a Christian music. I was surprised that you had observed something that no one else seemed to ever noticed. You have done well on your other subjects and passed," Dr. Raunio said. "But you have battled with Greek. I know how much this graduation means to you in 3 weeks. I know you have done all you could to pass your Greek exam but failed. Still, I want to give you grace," he said. "I know the Lord has a plan for you in the work that you are going to go. By grace, I'm going to give you a passing grade so you can graduate." Then he prayed for God to guide my future work. Little did I know how far God would take me. The Lord helped me to work for 18 years as youth ministries director at the Adventist Church in Zimbabwe. After that, I served as a youth director at the Church of Division for 7 years. I also received a doctorate in leadership. Every day I pray for God's help to extend grace to others, just as it was given to me. God sees potentials in us, even in our local state of sin. He sees what we can accomplish once we are filled with the Spirit. We should also stop looking at the present and allow God's eyes to see the future potentials in others. Don't you think so? It's a beautiful thing. And grace is one thing that each one of us need. And I think so. This man has experienced that, and we all also have experienced what grace is all about. Is an unmerited favor given to a person who don't deserve. And yet we are sinners. Jesus came and died for each one of our lives. So that is the model of this. Missionary changed. My grade EF and God. Okay, let's get into our Sabbath school lesson. So we are in lesson 7. It is entitled as the Seven Trumpets. It's one of the beautiful lessons that we have, and an implicative message in these trumpets. And let's go through the lesson for a few more. The memory text is taken from Revelation chapter 10, verse 7, and it talks about so beautifully. John tells it this way: "But in the days of the sounding of the seventh angel, when he is about to sound, the mystery of God would be finished, and he declared to his servants, the prophets." When we talk about the fifth seal here, we saw the cry of God's oppressed people, reflect the cry of the faithful of all ages. These faithful ones who portrayed as souls under the altar cried to God and asked God to help. If you have to see in Revelation chapter 6 verse 12, there's a sentence which is given there. It says, how long, O Lord, should I be able to suffer? Many a times Peter also asks the same thing, right? Why is this for me? Why should I suffer for nothing wrong that I've committed? How long will it take to ease my difficulties? How long will you be able to, put me into trial? How long should I be able to suffer? You see, this is the question that has been asked by many who are faithful in God's vineyard. And the same way in the book of Revelation chapter 6 verse 10, it is talking about how long, O Lord, who is asking this question? The faithful of all ages who suffered persecution just for being the disciples for Christ, just being followers in his vineyard. And then, how long, O Lord? The voice of heaven urged in every angle to listen to the plea of this faithful one. Many times God also is tied up. That's what I feel. Not that he can't do anything, he is powerless, but he waits for the time. You see, God is the Lord of patience. And he always, I don't know how long suffering God is all about. I don't know what patience is all about when God has allowed certain things to pass in our lives. It might be difficulty, it might be problems, it might be sickness, it might be whole lot of things might be happening, but still, sometimes God doesn't intervene and immediately answer to you. Why? I question, because there's a time for that. And how long? Which means, it is talking about the time frame. Should we be able to suffer? But in Revelation chapter 6, verse 15 and 17, the Bible says, God would judge those who harmed his faithful servants and disciples. I remember the days most probably when Jesus was there on this earth. I remember the days of 1,260 days where the church was pushed into wilderness. I remember the days where John, Jerome, and all these people were taken into a stake and been able to, be fired in every angle. I remember God's faithful children who have been martyred just for the sake of the truth. And the Bible says very clearly that the Lord will judge those who harmed his faithful. When Jesus returns to the earth and bringing judgment upon those who did evil to his faithful followers is awaited. The scene of the fifth scene represents the experience of God's suffering people throughout history, from the time of Abel until Jesus died, and of course, you'll be able to witness the same thing after the death of Jesus till he comes the second time. And God's suffering people must remain firm and believe that God hears the prayers of his people. That's it be possible that way. When you're going through hell, a lot of things, many times many people have come and said to me, does God exist? Does he really hear our prayer? Does he really be able to care for us? Even just last week, I had one person who I was communicating with, he was saying, is God there? He wants me to suffer every time. I want to cry. I want to suffer. But the Bible says it very clearly, okay, the vision that you and I have to have is be faithful to the very end, because he is going to judge the people who have made you suffer in every angle. And if you have to go to the synopsis of the seven trumpets, okay, trumpet shows throughout history God already has intervened on behalf of his oppressed people and has judged those who harm them. The purpose of the seventh trumpet is to assure God's people the heaven is not indifferent in their suffering. So when you take the instrument of trumpet, the one thing that has to be able to strike to each one of our mind is God is faithful in taking care of his children, and the heaven is absolutely open. We go a little bit further and be able to say something which is absolutely different. When you look into the book of Revelation chapter 8, opens with a picture of the seven angels again here. Okay, and last week we saw about the four angels having the four winds around the corner, and now we have the seven angels standing before God, ready to blow the trumpet. Before the trumpets are blown, okay, there's something which happens. Okay, there is another scene. Okay, the purpose is to explain the theological meaning of the trumpet. You'll be able to find that in Revelation chapter 8, verse 3 and 4. Along with the description of the daily sanctuary, we have to go to the sanctuary in order to understand what these 7 trumpets really mean about. Okay, if you have to know about what the 7 trumpets is all about, we have to go to the sanctuary. What happens in the sanctuary? The Jewish commentary or the Bible explains that the evening sacrifice of the lamb was placed upon the altar. We have morning sacrifice and the evening sacrifice in the temple, and it is particularly talking about the evening sacrifice on the altar of the burnt offering. And the blood was poured on the base of the altar. An appointed priest took the golden censer inside the temple and offered incense of the golden altar to the holy place. When the priest came out, he threw the censer down on the pavement, producing a loud noise. At that point, 7 priests blew the trumpet, making the end of the temple service for the day. Very interesting note here. The priest, after conducting the evening meeting of the sacrifice, he comes out and takes the censer and throws on the pavement. An important thing that you and I have to note here. Why does he throw the censer at the pavement? He throws the censer at the pavement. As soon as they throw, there's a loud crash happening. After the crash happens, and you will be able to find the 7 priests blowing the 7th trumpet. It simply denotes a very important aspect of what this trumpet sound is all about. If you have to read Revelation chapter 8, verse 3 to 5, there is a language in the book of Revelation. What is significant that the angel receives the incense and the golden altar which was before the throne. The incense represents the prayer of God's people. That's what recorded in Revelation chapter 5 verse 8. Their prayers are now being answered by God. It provides information regarding the trumpets in Revelation. The 7 trumpets are God's judgment on rebellious humanity in response to the prayer of the oppressed people. Amen? And I always wonder how this thing happened. When the trumpet is blown, the judgment has been passed. For whom the judgment has been passed is recorded in Revelation chapter 5. The judgment is passed on the people who humiliated, who passed on the difficulty and trouble to his children. And it says absolutely very clearly, the trumpet follows the death of Jesus as the Lamb and run consecutively throughout history until the second coming. So the suffering will not be only for a period of time. The suffering will not be only for certain people. The suffering will not be only to a class of people, but the suffering who is being underwent by people who trust in God will not be just kept quiet, because the God has been able to provide a day. And that's what the trumpet is all about. So when a priest, the 7th priest blows the trumpet, it simply understands one thing, that the judgment is being passed. The angel fills the censer with fire from the altar and hurls it down to the earth. That signifies that fire comes from the very altar on which the prayer of the saints were offered. The fact that the fire comes from the very altar shows that 7 trumpet judgments fall upon the inhabitants of the earth in answer to the prayer of God's people. Oh my, this is mind-blowing. I can't just imagine of myself that the judgment will be passed on the people who troubled his saints. And that's what the prayer of saints mean. And that's what the power of prayer will be manifested in the day when the Lord makes his judgment being fulfilled. The meaning of the trumpet, if you have to go a little bit further, you'll be able to understand that God's intervention on behalf of his people uses in the Old Testament. Trumpet was an important part of the daily life of the ancient Israel. And that is recorded in the Old Testament books in 2 Chronicles and Numbers 10. Trumpets were also blown in battle, and trumpets were also blown in harvest time and during festivals. What happens? Blowing trumpets went hand in hand with prayer. During worship, the temple, or during the festivals, the trumpet reminded that God, that He is in control of every situation. He will not be able to be removed at any cost about the prayer which has been answered in His own way. The trumpet signifies a very important aspect of Revelation. Denotes that God's intervention in history in response to the prayer of His people, while the seal concerning primarily those who profess to be God's people, the trumpet heralded judgment against the habitation of the earth. And that's what it means. One thing which just reminds me about when I talk about trumpets and judgment. I like this instrument trumpet. You know why? Because when the Lord comes the second time, and I think so the archangels will be there with this great instrument called trumpet. Okay, they're going to blow. And even in the ancient Israelic time, you'll be able to see trumpet had been a part of worship. And I wish even in our churches we use this instrument, okay, much more. Trumpets have been used in judgment. Trumpets have been used in battle. If you have to come to the ancient history in India, you'll be able to find that the kings who are there, before going to the battle, the trumpet was being blown. There's a huge horn, they blow that one. And once they blow that, then everybody knows that there's something, turmoil happening. In response to the prayer of God's people, trumpet is been connected with. That's what it means to say. Okay, the first two trumpets herald judgments upon the nations, that crucified Christ and persecuted the early church. That is the rebellious Jerusalem and the Roman Empire. That's number one. The third and the fourth trumpet portrays heaven's judgment against the apostasy of Christian church in the medieval period. And the third one, the fifth and the sixth trumpet describes the warring factions of the religious world during the late medieval and the post-Reformation period. Those periods are characterized by increasing demonic activity that ultimately draws the world into the battle of Armageddon. And there's a question to be pondered here. No question, history is bloody and full of pain and sorrow. How should this sad reality help us realize just how wonderful what we have been promised through Jesus really is? And we will talk about this question. In spite of all the difficulties that our ancient ages have been passed through, from the time of Abel. Abel had never committed any mistake. He was faithful, and he was being murdered in every family. And we could see the ancient Israel suffered for no reason, God's faithful people. And I remember John the Baptist. I remember the 12 disciples were martyred in a different altogether. Even John the Baptist, when he was there in his ministry, Jesus was there next to him. For the sake of truth, he was being imprisoned and he was being beheaded. And in fact, John questions the disciples of Christ and says, come on, is this the person that we have to wait for? Why am I in bondage? Why am I in difficulty? Why not Jesus been able to come and rescue me? Why was not Jesus been able to help me to come out of this prison so that I could be able to, be a minister or try to do the best as possible again? This question arose. And the same John, who's seeing the vision of Christ in heaven, also would have questioned God, I don't know. But it was the Isle of Patmos. What about Jerome, Martin Luther, all these people who suffered loss for the sake of truth? When I see these things, what is God doing? Is He mindful of His people? Why should He allow all these things to happen in history? But amidst all this turmoil and difficulty, God says, I'm still there. The only consolation that I get from this question is this. When Jesus was dying on the cross of Calvary, he shouted with one word. He said, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. My God, why have you forsaken me? When I see this one, the only question which arose in my mind was, where was God when Jesus was suffering? See, where was God when Jesus was suffering? The only thing that I could be able to say is this: what sin has taken the top of the whole earth? What sin could do? And what is the promise of Jesus? And he says, I'm going to put an end to all this stuff. The second coming of Christ is a very important event that we are awaiting. And there is hope in that divine power. Even though when Jesus, while on this earth, was so powerful, he waited patiently for his time. I like the statement of Jesus when Mary was able to come to Jesus and said, there's no wine. The first miracle of Jesus. There's no wine. What shall we do? And please help us out. You know, when he was telling about it that way, Jesus said, my time has not come. Still, I have to wait for the time. So it means God, in his own infinite mercy, time played a very important role in every hand. So, even when we talk about the judgment, when we talk about suffering, it is not for eternity, it is for a while. And the trumpet designates the importance of God is still mindful for the prayers of his children. If you have gone a little bit further, they'll be able to have another one. The sixth trumpet brings us to the time of the end. We are God's people called to do during this time. Before the seventh trumpet sounds, an interlude is inserted explaining the task of experience God's people at the end time. And listen to this one. Okay, Ellen White comments on the SDA Bible Commentary, volume 7, page 971. It says it very clearly. The mighty angel who instructed John was no less a person than Jesus Christ. So the person who instructed John the Baptist was not less a person than Jesus Christ. He places his feet on the sea and the land, signifying the universal rule, and that what he is about to proclaim the worldwide significance. He shouts with the roar of a lion. A lion's roar symbolizes God's voice. We know Jesus as the Lion of Judah. That's what we, long back we studied about. When we talk about lion, when the lion roars, it really roars. Once the lion opens its mouth, it does it. Usually when you look into the lion, I saw an important aspect of this one. You know what? It is so calm, so serene. Even though it looks so majestic, it has its own comeliness. But everybody fears a lion. Why? Because once it pounds, it's gone. The muscles, the strength. When Jesus was dying on the cross, he died as a lamb. But here, in the book of Revelation, he is the Lion of Judah. He becomes the lion, which means with all power, with all mighty majesty that he has, he is going to be able to proclaim on his people. And he says, when God roars of a lion, which means God's voice is so powerful. But in contrast with this, even Satan also roars like a lion, but is not a lion. You see the simile and metaphor here? Being like a lion is entirely different from what a lion is all about. And that's what it means to say. When the angels state there will be time no longer, okay, the Greek word is chronos, shows that it refers to a period of time. Okay, this points back in Daniel chapter 12, verse 6 and 7, about the 2,260 years or, okay, most probably starting from 538 to 1798, the persecution of the church. Okay, during which the church was persecuted by the papacy. Okay? The statement, that time will be no longer refers to the time prophecy of Daniel, particularly in the 2,300 prophetic days, as it is recorded in Daniel chapter 8, verse 14. Ellen White states it absolutely very clear. After which, after the period of time reaching from 1842 to 1844, there can be no definite tracing of the prophetic time. The longest reckoning reaches to the autumn of 1844, and it says from then on, you will be able to see the judgment of God is operative on his people. That's what it means. When you talk about 2,300 days of prophecy, 1,260 days of wilderness experience, and people have been martyred and killed for every reason of being the disciples for Christ, from the time of papacy and the Rome absolutely persecuted the church in every angle so vehemently. But after 1844, according to Daniel chapter 8, verse 14, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. Jesus enters into the most holy place, a place of judgment, a place of reconciliation, a place where the time reckoning has absolutely overseen in every hand. And you'll be able to find the judgment of God being able to be operative. That's what it means to say. And then, we know the implication of it, right? And in the book of Revelation chapter 10, verse 8 to 11, and you see the vision being able to be completed. We all know about it. When John is in the vision, God gives a scroll to John and says, I want to take this one. I want you to eat this scroll. Once you eat this scroll, it becomes sweet in your mouth like honey. And once you eat it, it becomes what? Bitter in your belly. And this has to happen. Please go ahead and eat this. What happens when John eats? When he eats, it was sweet as the honey in his mouth. And then later on, it becomes so bitter in his belly. And later on, the explanation has been given that in 1844, when the children of God, when they listened to the word of God, during the Millerite moment, it was such a joyous experience that, oh, the Lord is coming soon. All our sufferings will be absolutely taken away. We don't want anything on this earth. We want to be absolutely, you see, ready for the second coming. When the Lord comes, we want to go there, home with Him. We want to be there with Him. We want to enjoy. There is no pain, no tears, no sickness, no difficulty. What happened? Did Jesus come? No. Greatest disappointment. I want to ask you a question. How many of us have been disappointed in life? Why do you think so you have been disappointed in life?
Sometimes we have disappointment.
When we anticipate something, when it doesn't happen, your disappointment happens. Once the disappointment happens, what is the next step that we do? It's the difficult situation. You want to get a job, most probably you're going to be paid nearly $7,000 to $8,000 per month. Everything is absolutely fine. And the manager calls you and says everything is fine and you're going to join the work tomorrow. And suddenly tomorrow comes, something happens, and there's a letter stating that I'm sorry, I will not be able to. How will you feel? At times, a sickness looms our family. We kneel down and pray. There's a little ray of hope. I said, Lord, I know that you want to do it. I have so much faith in you. I know that you're not going to disown your children. Everything will be fine. I know the Lord, whom I believe in, will not leave me or forsake me. Suddenly, one of the family members for whom we have prayed are loved so much, the Lord has not answered his prayer. And he passes away. What happens? Looking for a childbirth? takes a lot of medication, it holds a lot of things. But the doctor says, you have to remove your womb. Disappointments, discouragements, hassles, sickness, they rooms. Once you get disappointment, you can explain about what you can do. There isn't you heard about in the island, the richest man in the island is the 33rd richest person there. Okay, the whole world. I forgot his name, I was just going to. He just committed suicide. You know why? There was an economic crisis, everything collapsed, the business went on loss. He committed suicide. Disappointments. I've heard of Leo Scriven, one of the greatest evangelists. He converted thousands and millions of people to Christ. He gave hope for many of them by leaving this world. Later on, he came to know that he shot himself in a room. Why? Disappointments. 1844 disappointments also states the same thing. When they knew that the Lord is coming, and that the Lord never came, just imagine the condition of those people. In fact, 95 to 98% of the people became Gnostics. They lost their faith in God. They lost their faith in the existence of God. That's the experience. When they listened to the word, it was sweet like a honey. But once they heard the disappointments, it became bitter. And that's what it takes. In Revelation chapter 11, verse 1, it refers, the temple that was to be measured is in heaven, not on this earth. Jesus ministers for us. The reference to the temple, the altar, and the worship points out to the Day of Atonement, or the anti-biblical Day of Atonement. Revelation chapter 11, verse 1 shows that the heavenly sanctuary message lies at the heart of the final gospel proclamation, which includes the vindication of God's character as such. It gives the full dimension of the gospel message regarding the atoning work of Christ and his righteousness as the only means of salvation for human beings. You see, there was a greater message that the Lord wanted to give to his children. And that's one of the reasons he gave this beautiful message of Revelation chapter 10, verse 10. What happened? People never believed them. After which they became absolutely very indifferent. But it points out that the Lord entered the most holy place in heaven, not on this earth. It implies one beautiful thought that the Lord is in his business. What? In his business? A judgment. And that is the time in the most holy place, he is there to be able to judge his. And the trumpet denotes that the judgments begin then from 1844, giving us an opportunity that you and I are followers of him, are disciples of his, have to wait for a time. But the judgment is absolutely past. You don't need to be disappointed for all your sicknesses, all your difficulties, all your problems, all whatever it is. And the Lord is not so scanty. Do not hear our prayers. He is there. He is not there to be disappointing us, but he is there to be able to guide us to. So that's one of the reasons Paul says it very clearly. Come boldly before the throne of grace. Satan is trying to persecute us. Satan is trying to put us down. Satan wants to make us disappointed so that we could be able to lose faith in God. But praise be to Jesus. Let us stick on to the promises of his word. The trumpet denounced that God's faithful children's prayer are heard. Every prayer which has been uttered God never disowns his children. And that's one of the reasons God has given us the two witnesses, which is recorded in Revelation chapter 11, verse 3 and 6. The two witnesses are nothing but the true Word of God. The Old Testament and the New Testament. Why is it been given? If you have to go to the book of Hebrews chapter 11, you will be able to understand very implicatingly that, the Word is there for the admonition. Look into the past history. 1,260 days or 2,400 days. Or go back to the Old Testament during the time of Abel. Or go to the time of where all our disciples were not here. When you see all this stuff happening, and still in Hebrews chapter 11, which is called as the chapter of faith, talking about Abraham, Moses, and every individual, they also suffered in every angle. And you could see how God was so faithful in eliminating all those suffering in a day-by-day time, and gives them an opportunity to trust in His promises and His word. So those names are written for you and me through His word for an admonition to keep our trust and faith in Him and Him alone, in spite of all the perils, in spite of all the difficulties, in spite of all the pain, in spite of everything that we undergo. The Lord is still in control. In His time, He's going to vindicate His children. That's what it means to say. When we talk about trumpets, it simply says that I'm there for you. And I said, as a priest throws the censer on the pavement, it simply says that it is done. The daily sacrifices has been done. And we are ending. And God is so gracious. That's what we need to say. When we talk about the censer or the incense which was there, it simply talks about the prayer which goes on to the throne of grace as we've been able to see Him at the end of our life. That's what it means to say. And the two witnesses comes from the Jewish legal system, which requires at least two witnesses to establish something as the truth. The two witnesses represents the Bible, both Old and the New Testament. The two cannot be separated. God's people are called to proclaim the full Bible message to the world, the whole counsel of God. The witness is pictured as prophesied in the book of Revelation, is helping us to understand. In Revelation, in Psalms chapter 119, verse 105, 106, the word is the lamp unto my feet and the light unto my path. How can the word go wrong? How can God's word be able to dismantle it? God's word has given us an opportunity in these last days to make sure that, that we can still trust God. We can still trust His word. And He's always there, ever, ever, ever to be a part of us in every moment of our life. So that's what the trumpet is talking about. Okay? So I want to ask you a question. Okay? When disappointments or discouragement occur in each one of our life, many people ask this question, right? I will also ask the same question. Why do righteous suffer? And why do you think so? People who are bad always increases. Please give me the answer. Many people came to me as a pastor, they asked me, give me this answer, Pastor. Why righteous has to suffer? What wrong did they do? When will God answer prayer? In fact, there was one friend, one professor of ours, was teaching theology. I don't want to mention his name, but he said one thing. He posted something on Facebook. I saw the post of a lady was completely with a lot of boils in her face, no proper clothing, having a begging bowl, was on the streets suffering. And he posted there this lady's photo and said, "Where is God?" Why will your God not come and help you? What will be the answer? He is sitting on the same throne.
There will
Okay.
be justice for all people. He is faithful, but we don't know why he makes some suffer, some prosper.
Okay, let me ask this question. Does God make us to suffer?
No, but he will let us.
Yes.
My point of view is that God is still on the throne and his eyes are going back and forth throughout the earth. And that's true. And what I'm thinking is that he doesn't make us to suffer, but he says, he won't, he will go with us through the trouble. You know, like if we have any trouble or trials or temptations, he's going to go with us, or he's not going to prevent it from happening. But sometimes he does, and he's not going to judge us, or he's not going to give us trouble or something that we cannot bear. It is said in the Bible, right, in the scriptures. He's going to give us in such a way that we as human beings, according to each individual, that we can be able to bear it and withstand it. And he's going to go through, he's going to go with us through the trouble. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, that's a beauty. That's one question. But what about how can you be able to speak to a person who doesn't believe God and really sees there's a lot of problem happening this way, and he has so much concern and courtesy and kindness towards a person that way. And what answer can you be able to give him? Because the gospel is nothing but the good news that we have to substantiate our answers and say, yes, God is love. But the question, what an atheist believer is, if God is there, why suffering? Why can't he be able to put an end to this one? And what we are learning about here is, yes, there is a time frame for God that he will be able to be operating. Because Galatians chapter 2 talks about, when the fullness of time came, God sent his own son.
I think in this lady that you said about the preacher in Spicer College or whatever, and I think we have to basically help her to meet her needs and then preach the gospel to her. Maybe that would have helped her.
Okay.
Because she was in such a pain, suffering, or whatever she was going through. Meet her needs to some extent as possible as Christian life, and then preach the gospel to her. Maybe they'll take it.
Yeah. Okay, this is one type of the story. If you have to take the same incident which happened in Calcutta, in India, about how Mother Teresa looked into was entirely different. When she saw a person suffering, when she saw a person with a lot of wounds and with an ugly, the stature and things like that, you know what she said? Somebody asked her in an interview, they said, what made you embrace these people who have been absolutely downcast in every angle? How can you be able to do this? We can't do that. We can't even see. The person is so ugly, especially when the wound is oozing out and things like that. What is that meaning? You know what she says? I see Jesus in that person.
Her faith is too strong.
I can see Jesus. Saint Francis of Assisi was one of the greatest examples. What happened one day, he was traveling on a horse. He saw a person absolutely with a saliva in his mouth and half-naked personality. And, to look himself is something is weird, it says. And he looks at the person, and what made him? He goes and hugs him, it says. As he goes and hugs him to help him out, that person disappears. What is the lesson that we can learn from this?
If we have done to
God wants each one of us to be hands and feet for Him. When we see a person suffering, when we see a person who is in need, it is not that we come here and pray out and just go out. What can I be able to do? And that's what the Bible says, you are the light of the world. Representing the greater light that is Jesus Christ. The light has to reflect in us. Many people ask, why is poor? Why is suffering? Why are some rich? Why are some people are so comfortable? The only answer that I could be able to give is this. God most probably has given riches or given our blessed us abundantly. Why? In order to be a blessing to the people who are downtrodden. When Jesus was born on this earth, when Mary was knocking, when Joseph was knocking at every door, it doesn't mean that Jesus never had food. When he was dying on the cross, when people were talking about, if you are God, you have done so many miracles, you can save yourself and save us too. Where was the power of God? Then, who gave eyes to the blind, who gave legs to the people who didn't have legs, who gave life for people who were dead like Lazarus. Where was the power? But even though he had all the powers at his disposal, to snap away Satan in every time is just this way. And don't ever forget, we are in the great controversy. It is between Michael and his angels, and Satan and his angels. So when suffering is implicated, it is not through God, it is to whom? It is Satan. He wants to see everything in a downtrodden situation. But as you said, amidst all this turmoil and difficulty, if you and I will be able to rely upon God, and He will show us the right place and the right person to go on. I've seen in my life, there are many people God has sent to me to be a source of inspiration and help. You and I are supposed to be a beacon of light. It's not only talking about Christ, but being like Christ. But God assures us in the past history that He is mindful of every individual who is inside. That's what the Bible says. My people, blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek, blessed are the ones who suffer, blessed are the ones who are downtrodden. You know why? Because Jesus came down to this earth to seek and save the lost. In the last days, the Bible says it very clearly, absolutely very clearly. When it comes to the second time, there are people who say, Lord, I have done this in your name. I have done this in your name. I have preached, I have healed, I have done this in your name. And the Lord answers, what have you done? I have done this, Lord. I was hungry, but you never gave me food. I was thirsty. You never gave me water. I was in the prison. You never came and visited me. So where are God's children? Where are God's children? In the prison? In the hospitals? On the streets? What do we think? We are blessed and they are cursed. That's one of the reasons they are in the prison. They are criminals, they are there. What is God telling? My children are there, faithful children. And Jesus compares them to Him. That is the beauty of the gospel. What happens? Why are we being blessed? Go to the prison. Why are we blessed? Ask God, whom shall I feed today? God will show you. This is the person I have, my child. You are feeding me. I will show you where. What shall I do today, Lord? Oh, the person is sick. He needs your help. Please go. You will bless. Whom shall I send? Here am I, Lord. That makes sense? But when it comes to judgment, he sees the rich and the poor just the same. The trumpets speak about forgiveness, a very important aspect of it. When the sick, the suffering, and the poor are crying for the Lord and says about the Bible text, how long should we be able to? Even God is mindful. He's not going to desiccate his children just that way, but it's just waiting for the right time. Right time. You know, when it's night, we sleep. When it's day, we work. The same thing, how God operates. When it's night, He's silent. When it's day, He's not working. And that's what the reason in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 it says, for everything there is a time. And when we talk about God's judgment, 1844 started. Yes, it's not going to end. And I know after judgment is His second coming. And the trumpet denotes for you and me that God is mindful of the prayers being answered to Him by the throne of grace. Let's keep that in our heart, mind, and soul. And the last but not the least, I want to sum up here. A very beautiful thought which is, coming up. He says, the seven trumpets outlines the content of the reminder of the book. Number one, it says, the nations who are angry describe Satan as filled with anger, with his two allies, that is the sea beast and the earth beast, prepares the nation of the world to fight against God's people. So, Satan is the one who is instigating, that's what it means to say. And second, the wrath has come. This one we'll be able to find in Revelation chapter 12 verse 14. And Revelation chapter 14, 12 verse 17 and 14 verse 12. In these two says, the dragon was brought with a woman who made war against this seed. That's what it means to say. And simply says that, the time for the dead to be judged as described in Revelation chapter 20 verse 11 to 15, and to reward God's servants is portrayed in Revelation chapter 21 and 22. To destroy those who destroy the earth in Revelation chapter 19 verse 2. The Bible says it very clearly that destruction of Satan and his allies are there. It is at hand. After 1844, the judgment has been started according to Matthew chapter 24 and 1 Timothy chapter 3. But what all we be able to see throughout the whole world today, what is happening, it's simply saying that the Lord is not going to tolerate and see this children be suffered. The time has come. Most probably the night has gone. The day is at hand. The Lord is about to descend and take His children home. One assurance and the hope that we have is the Lion of Judah is still alive. The Lion of Judah is closing the earth's history and is calling you and me to rely upon Him in His last days. And the Lord, who was victorious over death and sin, He will give us an opportunity to be victorious over everything. That's what the lesson of trumpet speaks about. Which means that judgment is at hand. And the Lord is going to give us the good news that His children will be saved. He's going to fight for us. Is there the most holy place? Nothing to fear. And that's one of the reasons Paul says it very clearly, come boldly to the throne of grace. My duty and your duty is to come boldly to the throne of grace. Without difficulties and without problem. And the Lord answers our prayer. Any questions you have? Any questions? Any clarification? Yes, Auntie.
I just want to read this one thing. When you asked what do you do when you're disappointed? What they did when they were disappointed. 1814, the message was sweet to them. However, when Christ they experience a bitter disappointment and what they did for the disappointment.
Mhm.
They search the scriptures for a clearer understanding.
Mhm.
And that's what we have to do. And for us, when we are disappointed, I think we have to ask God sincerely, faithfully, what He's trying to teach us. Then He will show us why the disappointment came.
Okay, that's a good answer. I like it though. Okay, so we can be able to rely upon Him and ask Him, go to the scriptures once again. And the ultimate thing is, once you rely upon Him, and I don't think so He's going to forsake us, and He will get us the way He allowed us to go. And that's what it is in the Bible says it very clearly. Everything happens for good those who love the Lord. Have you heard what they said? Everything happens for good those who love the Lord. How that will be possible? I used to think. And later on I came to understand this. I have to get from here to that end. That is my goal. That is my journey. So when I start walking with a slow step from here, hardship come. A lot of things come here. Disappointment, discouragement, sickness, all. Ultimately is death. Because why? The wages of sin is death. There is no option. Because God told the very moment you're going to disobey me, what happens is you're going to die. And you and I, one way or the other, we are disobeyed, but still thank you for the grace of Christ. You see, we're walking, we have abundance, we have walking, we have abundance, we are facing a lot of things. Don't know why. But our focus has to be what? To reach the end. Focusing about Jesus. Jesus most of all is kind of at the end and is just there. Don't worry, come to me, I'm there. No need to have your focus be deviated at any cost. Just focus on me. So we have a lot of things. See, what is doing is coming in every between and saying, what? You're focusing on Christ. No, that's not the solution. And he's trying to focus on your left or to the right. The world or the things of this world. You be this, you do this, things will be fine. Which means that he doesn't want us to reach the goal straight. He wants to deviate like this and go here. The ultimate plan was saying that he should take us to hell and death. He wants to deviate us here. He doesn't want us to go straight. So whenever you try to have your focus on Christ, what happens? There is distractions, disturbances. Why? Satan wants you to distract. And that's one of the reasons the third temptation for Christ is this. Jesus is telling, I know why you have come here to this earth. You want to take your children, right? You want me to leave this earth? Okay, just bow down to me. That's enough. I will leave this place. This earth is yours. Why should we be able to suffer? That's what we're talking about. My dear brothers and sisters in Christ, let us not deviate our focus on the goal which is set that Jesus is standing with his outstretched arms. It's that we have to make up our mind to march to. Push away all this stuff, whatever. Push away all this stuff from your right to the left. Just keep on. The time is here. We are halfway through. We are just about to reach. We have started the race in Christ. And the Lord says, I am there with you to the very end of this age. Just a little moment. You know why? The trumpets haven't blown. The judgment haven't started. Our journey is going to be complete. And the new heaven and the new earth's journey is going to be with Christ. Just a little patience. Things will be. God bless each one as we come. Any questions? If not, we do have a Sabbath offering being collected. And it was with the army. Just come forward and have this one offering. And then we can begin to close out with this. Okay, we could just have a small part of prayer before we be able to express gracious God in heaven, we thank you, Jesus, for the wonderful words of life which you illuminated through the word, that we know that your judgment is on them. Many times we have difficulties and problems, but compared to the heaven that you prepared for each one of our lives, O Father, it is much more than what is required of us. Help us to be faithful to the very last breath of our life, because the focus is on Jesus. When the Lord is there in the most holy place, and I believe that He will answer each one of our prayers. Continue to help each one to grow with you here, not to lose hope and faith in you. Help us to always be close with you as we enter into another part of the worship, Father. May your presence go with us. May we experience your joy, peace, and happiness in our lives. And we come to your name.